I love the way you can actually see the cameraman getting set on fire at the end of that. You see that? Incredible. That's the way they filmed that.
And from the sublime to the ridiculous, I'm now going to ask you to turn on your intellectual brain again and come up with a couple of really fast, really interesting questions for our wonderful panel of speakers. And a round of applause again for all three of them. It's a fantastic range of themes this evening. So anybody like to start off with the first question? Yes. Hang on, Lixi's coming with her.
I'm just curious to know about, your stellar artois thing. How did you find those people? Like, how do you find the story? Like, how do you?
Yeah, I thought part of me during the build up to this thought about writing the whole thing about our move to a more journalistic approach, and that was and it's completely with planning and creative both working in that way as well. So we set a brief and kind of principles of what the stories we wanted were going to be that we agree with the client, and then worked with reality TV show producers to go and find those stories. And I think about 80 of them came back, maybe 10 options on each gift we wanted to give away, and through between creatives and planners in that newsroom approach, we ciphered down what was going to work.
Yes, yes, over here. Row 3.
I wanted to know, do you think it's more damaging to have sort of no social media presence than just a really crap social media presence? I don't mind who that goes to.
Dom? Tracy?
Goes to.
Well, I didn't really talk about social. I don't know if somebody else wants to.
I think it's damaging to not be prepared for something to happen socially. I think that's what the most damaging thing is. I mean, I think you can be there and nothing can be around you, but I think when you're doing something that you're hoping is going to cause something to happen, you need to be prepared socially for whatever that is. I think that's what I would say.
With my commercial hat on, I'd say it depends what your objectives are, but depends on the amount of resource it takes.
I think that's the problem, is that sort of I work with quite a lot of clients who just don't have the resources to put out a proper social media presence, so it's kind of, is it then better for them just to not try to?
Allegedly, the art of great strategy is sacrifice, right? So if you apply that to your clients, it's about doing less better. If they're a client with less resource at their disposal, that could mean just all you do is social, for example. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but I would apply that principle depending on what the objective and the context of the problem was.
Dom?
It's one of the slides that Tracy you had, and this might be kind of picking hairs a little bit, but it said that a certain group of people crave experiences that stimulate their senses. Arguably, aren't all experiences requiring sort of some stimulus of some senses?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was just saying that there's an over-indexing amongst millennials. I don't think everybody craves experiences that stimulate the senses all the time, and some do more than others. And probably when you ask that question, people are going to go, well, I don't want experiences that don't, stimulate any of my senses. But I just think there's an over-index for the millennials. They're more aware of it. I was at the Wired Retail Day today, and again, it was quite interesting because they'd asked a bunch of millennials if they were going to set up a piece of retail, whether it was a pop-up store or whatever, because it was all about the merging of online and physical retail. What would that be like? And they said, play, learn, and share. That's what they wanted. And to me, that's a much more sort of stimulating sensorial experience than transact, which is what people from my generation were retail. Well, it's all about, getting people to buy stuff, propensity to purchase, get them to transact and send them through a process. I thought it was very different. The millennials had a completely different point of view. It was an experience. So I know what you're saying then.
This question is for Chris. It's just with regards to the model you used at the end, where it was brand, execution, and then platform. Is there an argument that platform should come before execution?
I think that one's you.
That would make a better idea.
if your platform has natural network effects built into it, then I'd start like Facebook, then I'd start there. I think statistically, so very few platforms have ever proved that as a commercial model. I think you would take, you'd have to be a strong bettor to place odds there. So I think as a betting person, I would probably start on the idea. And sort of generally, again, it depends a little bit on the context, but people don't go to, there's a thing of a myth of build it and they shall come. It raises an awkward question about where you'll get your scale from and where you'll get your growth from. So it depends a little bit in terms of what the network dynamics that are naturally built into that platform do. Mostly they don't.
I think it's quite an interesting question because once you've got the Internet of Things, I think it's a good place where things just communicate for themselves. So why do you need advertising? Why do you want to put that intermediate bit in the middle where you go, well, there's some media or something? They'll just communicate. You'll have a specific and direct relationship. Obviously, there'll still be advertising and it will evolve, but I don't think there'll be as much of it as there is today, and I don't think obviously it won't be anything like it is today. But then you would potentially argue that platform comes much earlier in the process.
Okay.
I've got a question linked into that, really. Been having lots of conversations with companies like The Audience and Mashable and Protein Networks. And the way I see it, a lot of those people own the keys, basically, because not only have they got the audience, but now they've also backing it out with lots of data. In terms of Mashable's got this amazing new tool. I don't know if you guys have seen it. But what role do you think the agencies need to play with working with those companies, and how do you think that's going to affect the agency landscape? When you talk about influence and ideas that influence.
I think on that stuff that I was playing, we've basically had those guys, or the relevant versions of those members, on our team the whole way through this process. With the YouTube team have been involved from day one on this holidays project, and not just that. I think the creatives needed to be very aware of how we needed this stuff to happen organically as well. So if our creatives weren't in those meetings with those teams of people who were going to bring us to those audiences, we would have shot these things with very different people. Part of the brief was often finding people that had an audience themselves, and that was built right back into the production of what we're doing. So I think the creative agency can play a huge role, especially as a lead agency. If you're the people leading the developments of that core idea, if you don't have what needs to happen afterwards built into that up front, you're going to struggle all the way along with it, I think. But that's in my experience on that stuff.
Good. Well, thank you very much. We just have time for one very important final thing, which is that Tracy and John Griffiths are going to take you back in time to the start of planning and describe to you why you have a very interesting flyer on your chair and what we would like you to do as a result. So Tracy and John, very quickly, and thank you to all of us.
See, we've got a captive audience now. We're our victims, sorry. It would just be